Now it's time for the Anchormen podcast with Matt Gates and Pearson Sharp.
Welcome back to another episode of the Anchormen Show. We are going to talk about a number of the issues that you've seen in the news and also how they're contextualized online with people who want to make sure there are eyeballs on their agenda, their priorities, their candidates, and we've got just the right guest to do it. I'm joined as always by my outstanding co-host, Pearson Sharp, who is an investigative journalist here at One America News and all-around everyman. And also my good friend Rob Smith, Rob Smith, you've seen him on Fox News, TikTok, Rob Smith Online, every
just
platform.
running my mouth everywhere. That's where everybody sees me.
Well, mostly on the East Coast. You're like a New York, Miami, DC guy.
Yes.
So you've made yourself away from Interstate 95, and you have maintained all of your powers here in San Diego, California.
Yes.
Well, I'm eager to get into so much of what's going on right now in the news. But first, I know so much about you. You served in the military. You kind of came on the scene as Trump was leading a political realignment where the GOP started to look and talk and behave differently online. Just walk us through that and what brings you this moment, what you're working on now.
Yeah, man. So if people don't know me, Rob Smith, obviously Rob Smith Online on all socials, the TikTok and the Instagram and the X and all that stuff. So I came out, quote unquote, as conservative in 2018, right? It seems like a million years ago, but as 2018, I came out as a non-traditional conservative, this black gay guy that comes out as pro-Trump, right? And the reason that I did this in 2018 is because a lot of people don't know that I have a background, not only in the military, because I served in Iraq, Operation Iraqi Freedom, decorated the whole thing, but I also have a degree in journalism from Columbia. So I have a master's in journalism from Columbia. And one of the biggest reasons that I came out for Trump is that I saw the mainstream media that I had once believed in just totally lying about him, just lying through the skin of their teeth every single thing that he said or did. They just lied about.
We forget him now. He was a Russian agent. Yeah. Then there was that crazy bounty story out of Afghanistan. It was all lies.
There was everything. And the thing that really struck the most to me was the Charlottesville lie. The very fine people on both sides, Nazi smear. I was like, this is crazy. This is not what he said. This is ridiculous. And mind you, I didn't even vote in 2016 because I was one of those, Trump is racist, he's this. So I was one of those. So I was one of the...
You came over from the other side.
Yeah, I came over from the other side. And I was one of the first to create this kind of large social media influencer platform doing this. I was an influencer before we even had a word in the conservative movement for what influencing is, right? And so now there's a lot of people.
We just called you computer people.
Yeah, just computer people. Now there's a lot of people that call themselves influencers that have no influence. But anyway, that is how I came to all of this stuff. And, since 2018, one of my first jobs in American politics was working with the great Charlie Kirk. Under Charlie Kirk at Turning Point USA. It was my first job in conservative politics. Incredible. Charlie's an incredible man. It was an incredible organization. Learned so much, got so much opportunity to do so many things. Kind of broke off, did my own thing, focused a lot on my social media platform. And now I'm about to move to the swamp here in a couple of months to kind of, get in there and, see what we can do with these people, Matt, because they are just, on some levels, the job is great, but then on some levels, people just are engaging in the swamp thing, and that's what we still gotta drain the swamp.
Oh, there is so much still to do in that regard. Rob, I met you at a lot of these Turning Point events, and I kind of put you in that same basket of Anna Paulina Luna.
Yes.
There was that first wave of people who really understood how to scale message online. That it wasn't the speech you delivered at the Rotary Club debate, that 40 people came to. It wasn't even necessarily the whistle stop tours. It was really the ability to have a message that could rapidly scale.
Yeah.
And the mainstream media finally picked up on that. They wrote about how Charlie Kirk and Turning Point created this infrastructure.
Of course.
How durable do you think it is? I tend to think that it's really durable, that we have so many channels to get information out now. And sure, there'll be things that ebb and flow, but I don't think there's just going to be a moment where the left regains that advantage they had online during the Obama years.
No, I don't think so. And look, to your point about Turning Point, I'm proud to be, one of the first contributors that they hired. I'm proud to be somebody that came in an era where when you talk about Anna Paulina, there's a sitting congresswoman right now, right? A friend of both of us, in doing incredible work in D.C. At the very beginning of all this, people were selected to be elevated because they actually brought something real to the table, right? I'd had the Columbia degree. I'd had the military experience. Anna Paulina is...
in the military also.
Yes, was the military also. She was in the military also. You look at somebody like Brandon Tatum, who was a former police officer, who had kind of like worn that uniform and done that job. So these were people that came into all of this stuff with very real receipts, as the kids would say. And the reason that I think that I think that the conservative media infrastructure right now, if you want to call Turning Point a part of conservative media, I tend to think that they're more at doing activist work because they've got so much stuff going on.
It's all content.
Yeah, it's all content.
Yeah.
But I think it is durable because this is what I think. Regardless of whatever moment that, the internet is in right now, when it comes to whatever people have to say about whatever, I've been in the rooms. I've been at the galas. I've worked with these people. I know enough to know that what they're doing will sustain and that the infrastructure is there.
It's just so decentralized, which in itself is its own power. And Pearson, I'm down to get your take on just who is winning the internet right now. If you look at politics and you look at the information sphere, do you get the sense that, we could have said in after the 2020 election that it was the Democrats who were winning the internet because they had so many tools to constrain reporting, speech, information. It feels different now to me.
It feels a lot better now.
Yeah, tell me what your take is.
I think the cat is out of the bag. And I think, like you said, coming out in 2018, I think the Republican movement has come out. I think a lot of people for a long time have been afraid of voicing their views, afraid of talking about what they really think and just being conservative openly. So many people are afraid of that. Depending on where you go, it's still dangerous to come out as a conservative. And so I think the cat is out of the bag. Republicans are getting more and more bold in voicing their views, and what would have been considered, radical or extremist before is now more moving mainstream. The things that Charlie Kirk said, talking about Christianity, talking about Muslims, talking about just our nation, those would have been considered extreme a while back. And now it's just, that's a typical conservative viewpoint. So I think we are winning that. I think the left is panicking because they have moved so far left that they can't control the center anymore. And so I think we're going to see a lot of positive outcomes in the next few years.
I think
that's the most optimistic take you'll get from me.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm taken aback that Pearson is so sunny and shiny. But one thing that will change that is when we start talking about Capitol Hill. So, Rob is going back to D.C. He feels like
not
it
back.
is needed.
I've never lived there. I have never lived in Washington D.C. Even when I was doing the thing with Turning Point and I was traveling and all that stuff, I was always based in Florida. I have never been DC based ever.
Smart move.
It will. It is not a comfortable place. It wasn't for Ginger and I because, even if you'd go grab a cup of coffee, you had to constantly worry that all the people around you are political optimists, right?
Because they are.
If you and I went and got a cup of coffee in Cincinnati, Ohio, the odds of someone around us being a political operative trying to get their moment would be very low. But in DC, you just always have to be on alert, and it's why a lot of people find that grating and wearing. Maybe New York's that way. Is New York that way?
No, New York isn't that way. The thing about New York, because I was based in New York for so many years, it is a place that has so many different industries. I have friends in New York that are Pulitzer Prize winning playwrights and actors and actresses and people that are in the art world. And so New York is very decentralized in terms of there's not just one specific thing that New York City is about. It's about so many different things. And DC is just about this one thing.
Power.
And that is power and politics. Everybody in DC is obsessed with it. I probably go to DC right now, even before I do the move, probably about, I would say 5 to 10 days a month for work. And so it's 3 days straight of meetings and going to Capitol Hill and doing all of this stuff. And sometimes they're congressmen and congresswomen, and sometimes they're electeds, and sometimes they're think tank people, right? Because I consult for a lot of different types. But you just I feel drained after even 4 days in DC. I feel drained of all of my resources. I feel like I've had to be on 24/7 everywhere I go. And I'm not even like famous. I'm an internet person. You know, I'm definitely a social media influencer and I have that following, but I can feel eyeballs on me everywhere I go in DC.
I mean, sometimes you drain the swamp.
I have no interest in going again.
Yeah.
And Pearson's been to Syria. So, you know,
right.
I'd rather go back to Syria.
That is a fair take. But I want to get into why. And I want to start answering the question in this episode about who's delivering right now.
Yeah.
And let's start with the Republicans in Congress. Now, Pearson had his blood pressure at about 220 over 130 earlier this week when he saw that dozens of Republicans had crossed over on an appropriations vote and voted with Democrats.
81, I think.
Yeah, 81 Republicans. Well, tell us about it.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 81 Republicans joined the Democrats to support the National Endowment for Democracy.
Why are you against democracy, Pearson?
I mean, who isn't? No, democracy, the NED, it's just a propaganda network.
Totally.
They push radical left-wing propaganda. It's basically like USAID. Mm-hmm. And I want to point out, I was just reading more about it today. They actually supported the Global Disinformation Network back in 2020, which is another radical left-wing group that actively targeted One America News.
And you.
And me.
They were like your biographer.
Yeah. So this group is nasty, and we've got these Republicans funding him like $314 million. They decided to give them. You know, we've gotten rid of
here's why.
PBS, NPR, and all the others. Why aren't we taking rid of them?
And by the way, I totally agree with you. I would not have been among those 81 Republicans. But I've been there on the floor trying to convince people to do the right thing, and this is the oratory you get back. Well, Matt, if America wants power around the world, we have to have these institutions. From these institutions, we can make things happen, we draw influence, and we can assist American interests at any corner of the globe. Why would you want to get rid of American power? Do you want America to lose?
I want Trump to go to Davos and put the boot down and tell everybody how it's going to be. That's American power. We don't need these disgusting deep state slush funds destroying our country and undermining our democracy everywhere they go. That's the problem.
And so to the 81 Republicans, you would just say that
you're out.
That's it. You've had it.
You're out. Yeah.
Disqualifying.
You're obviously
vote.
Operatives.
Well, that's one thing that they did vote to do. Let me offer this. This
You're
vote
always
occurs,
the devil's advocate.
I'm here for
the devil doesn't need an advocate, Matt.
Well, so,
he's winning.
Sometimes we have to fret these things out so we can figure out what's going on. The House of Representatives did pass appropriations bills for the entire government. That never happened when I was there. Not once. In 8 years did we have an actual appropriations process that funded the government the way the law intended. And while those were probably bills you wouldn't have voted for because they had too many earmarks and too much pork, I think Speaker Johnson would say he's at least trying to get back to a system that is something other than 8 lobbyists in a smoke-filled room writing up how we're spending all the money.
We've got too many wimpy, washy Republicans running things.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go to Rob on this. I'm going to go to Rob on this because here's the other feedback we've gotten. Some of those frontline Republicans saying, why are you putting me on taking all these votes? You guys are supposed to protect me. I have a swing district. I've got a bunch of angry people throwing rocks at Tesla facilities and having anti-ICE riots. Why are you putting me through the meat grinder of tough votes on all these amendments? I should be nurtured. I should be coddled. I should be protected.
I think what a lot of people don't understand about DC and just about the House, like Congress in general, there are 435 members in the House, correct? My math is correct. How many of those people do you think that the average person can name? Maybe 10, maybe 15, maybe 20 if you're a true political nerd
like
and
8
junkie.
to 12.
Maybe 8 to 12 tops. Yeah. When you were in Congress, you were, and I use it in quotes, like you were a star, right? You were a star in Congress. We have Anna Paulina as a star. There's, we know the stars that are there.
Well, and we know the villains.
Yeah, we know the villains. Okay, so we know the stars, we know the villains. There are, outside of the stars and villains, 420 other people
husks of humans
sitting in Congress. Nobody knows their name. They're not doing anything. They're voting on everything. They're just voting on things, right?
The point is to not get noticed.
The point is to not get noticed so that they can find they can get all their pork and they can sell out to all the lobbyists and they can sell out to all of these people. And so that is the point of Congress. And what I like about what's happening right now, when you have these people that we know that have gone over to vote with Democrats, is that now we have this online influencer sphere that can actually really put these people on blast. And I will tell you.
Does that work?
For some of them, it does.
I would say no.
I will tell you this. Remember when Trump was putting all of this pressure on, and maybe it was Susan Collins and May. Remember when they were trying to get all of our people confirmed? Remember when it was like, we're trying to get Tulsi?
I remember.
And we were trying to get RFK. Well, yeah, you
I remember vividly.
Of course you did. But you remember, okay, so we were trying to get RFK. We were trying to get Tulsi. We were trying to get Hegseth. At that point in time, there were kind of like these weak senators. And before we had this sort of online pressure cooker that we can put these people under, a Susan Collins out of Maine would have just been able to say, well, I'm not going to vote for Pete Hegseth because of my principles.
Joni Ernst was
it was Joni Ernst. Okay,
Joni
great.
Ernst would not have voted for Pete Hegseth, but for the feedback that she got online in her state. And by the way, it should be a credit to her that she was at least willing to be receptive to that feedback.
Yeah, but also, I guess maybe it's a credit to her, but the reality of the situation is that if she could have gotten away with not voting and just did a little CNN interview and talking about why she couldn't possibly vote for Hegseth, and there was no heat on her, then Hegseth wouldn't have gotten confirmed, right? And I guess I just brought up Susan Collins because she's been a villain in plenty of other circumstances.
She wouldn't even meet with me. She wouldn't even take the meeting.
And so to answer your question, does it work? It works when it matters. I don't think that people are as interested enough about the machinations of Congress for that kind of stuff to matter when it comes to votes like this.
Let me give you a hot take that will annoy you.
It's sad. It's probably
to most members of Congress, 5 phone calls from max out donors expressing displeasure with a particular course of action matters more than getting 5,000 phone calls from constituents.
Interesting.
5 phone calls from max out donors.
So we have to figure out who the donors are and how to put pressure on those donors.
They're public. They're public. And oftentimes, the people who max out like to everybody.
Yeah.
They accumulate politicians like trading cards.
Goodwill.
Yeah. And I guess to the point where maybe it's up to someone, and I have a big problem with, like, not only conservative media in general or conservative influencers, but I have a big problem with our conservative journalistic outlets. I feel like they don't.
We're right here, Rob.
Well, yeah, they're right here.
There's one good one I know of.
Well, but honestly, because this is what I think, and let's talk about the big dogs. Let's talk about the millions of viewers and this is that blah blah blah. These people have all of the resources in the world to do actual real reporting that can get filtered out and pushed out to influencers and pushed out to whatever. What do? Yet another news hit with some congressman or congresswoman flapping their jaws trying to get a clip for their fundraising email.
Oh, I did that. I sent out every interview I ever did to my fund. Well, because I didn't take money from lobbyists. And so my theory was, I need people to see what I'm saying and want to be on board financially with supporting my ability to say that. But I think you're making a broader critique that you would like to see right-leaning media, more substantive, more investigative journalism.
My biggest critique right now, as I spend more time in D.C. and as I take these meetings in D.C., like I said, there are about 8 million public policy think tanks in Washington, D.C. that really don't do a whole hell of a lot besides scrounge up enough money to have a gala once a year and, buy some $125 award and get a congressperson to show up, right? And so we will not be as strong, to the point about sustainability. Mm-hmm. This movement will not be as sustainable as the left until we actually come up with something that can stand up to what they have. The left has so many networks full of these kind of like left-wing journalistic
really
think
organized.
Tanks. They're very organized. So they fund these left-wing journalistic think tanks, and then when they have something that's good, then it filters up to MSNBC or whatever the hell it is that they're calling it right now, and then all of their politicians are outraged about it, and then it becomes a major thing. And in a weaker Republican Party, they were allowed to put pressure on us that way. I don't believe, have anything that is as strong as that
we don't stand
network
together
right
like
now.
they do.
No, but I would let me say like that they are the redcoats and we are the Americans and the
Redcoats being
patriots.
communists.
No, I mean the British. Like they are trying to fight the war in the manner that Rob just described. And I think that to our earlier point about what Charlie Kirk built, what creating a platform of influencers, podcasters, outlets that is decentralized does, is it does make you more of a guerrilla force against that of the left. But I'm very eager to go to our own very best investigative journalists at this network and really ask you if you agree with Rob's critique that on the right, a lot of the media maybe has become too flashy and lacking the type of thorough review that you might even see from a YouTuber like Nick Shirley, who right now is like the biggest journalist in America.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to Bright Beginning Center. But what do you guys think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
Sorry. No comments. Can I please?
Right here, you have Serenity Quality Care.
I don't know. I think that our strength is just getting to the point like Nick Shirley does. I mean, he represents what a lot of conservatives need right now, just getting right to the truth. And he got more viewership than MS Now did in the last 6 months. And I think that's
Does that
very
scare
valuable.
you that guerrilla journalists don't have to be credentialed, don't have to go to journalism school like Rob?
No,
they could just have a
because I think all
phone
that
and a
is
microphone.
useless now. I think all that's overrated. It's outdated. It's unnecessary, and it's controlled by the wrong people. And so you have people like Nick Shirley coming out and just exposing how much is happening with just a cell phone, just going out there and doing it. That's what we need more of. And I think that's what conservatives are really good at doing, because unfortunately, we're not as organized as the communists are. We're more independent and we just go out and do things on our own.
But I think that makes us stronger.
Well, and so there's the strength in what I'm saying. That's exactly my point.
Well, let's.
I don't know that it
go
makes
ahead.
us stronger.
There's pros and cons. There's pros and cons.
I don't know that how decentralized this movement is makes us stronger.
Well,
so this is the thing. And I understand the intent and the idea behind what you're saying. But when I look at the left and I look at how in lockstep they are with every single thing, man, the left always stays on
They
message.
stay together.
And I think that what's going on with everything that we have going on with, if you conservative media, influencers, all of this stuff is so new. We haven't been able to kind of really get in lockstep yet. But then again, it's because we're conservative and independent thinkers.
No, it's also because they killed our field general.
Well, they did. And then to the point when you have the left, they don't have strong voices in the new media world. All they have really is their same voices. Like Jon Stewart is still doing that freaking show. Jon Stewart is still doing this.
Years.
It is crazy to me that his old ass is still sitting on this set doing this and still talking the same that he talking the same stuff that he talked in 2003. It's ridiculous. But to the point, they do not allow for their strong independent voices to rise up. It's very much in lockstep.
Well, do you think that's because they're scared of some of those voices? Because I look at the Democratic Party and frankly, the energy is with the Democratic Socialists.
Yes.
The Socialists, there's no blue dog Democrat energy. There's no pro-gun Democrat, pro-life Democrat. That was a thing of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Now it is the socialism. And I think the few moderates that are involved in the Democratic Party do want to silence those people and keep them down because they're afraid of them.
Well, look, to the point of that, I think one of our strengths is that we have a message that resonates with most people. I think most people hear what people like Nick Shirley say or people like Charlie Kirk say, and they're like, yeah, I get that. I identify with that. You don't have that on the left because they're bat effing crazy. People don't identify with their message.
But to Matt's point, people are identifying with the crazies. People are identifying with the socialists.
I think you have a minority. You have the 20% who are just absolutely nuts, and they're very loud.
But they're in charge now.
The most of America don't agree with them. So we have the strong message.
So most of America don't, and it's God, I'm going to sound like a socialist apologist or something here, and I'm absolutely not. But I understand why they have the power that they do right now. I understand why they have the energy that they do right now. And it's not just because everybody's crazy. Because look, another part of my background is I was a Bernie bro in 2016, right? So I was a Bernie bro, didn't vote in 2016, obviously came out for Trump. there's so much daylight between what their left says, even the socialists, right? And I'm not talking about the blue-haired they-thems. I'm talking about the people whose fundamental message is that we can't afford to buy a house. We can't afford to live. Like, these are fundamental things, right?
They're saying your system is broken.
They're
Everybody,
saying
we have a
broken.
different one.
And we have a side that says that the system is broken. We just have a different response to it. And the reason that the socialists right now have all the energy on the left, the reason that Zohran Mamdani is the mayor of New York City, is because their socialists have realized the power in this new media structure. Whereas the Democrats, the mainstream blue dogs or whatever, were always working from top down, you know? And so they've got the energy. I think that the only thing that we can hope for is that, and this is something that I saw happen with AOC a little bit, where AOC has been kind of absorbed into
she's been completely corporatized.
Yeah, completely corporatized.
AOC
absorbed.
Inc. AOC INC.
She's absorbed into the swamp of the left, as has Ilhan Omar been, right? So I guess the only thing that we can hope for from some of these crazies is that, you know, they get absorbed into whatever corporate version of Democrats that they want to push.
That is a path that many have traveled. Well, I want to get to this Minnesota story that Nick Shirley is on and kind of the whole panoply of it, because I never had on my 2026 bingo card that I would be talking about Minnesota every night on my talk show, of all places. But first we learn about this fraud. And now we have this immigration enforcement push. 2 people fatally shot by CBP, protests, riots. Now Tom Homan's there. And there's an effort, I think, on all sides to just do what needs to be done and not have the place erupt into civil war. But I've had a lot of people tell me they think these Democrat politicians got everything fired up in the street theater on the immigration enforcement because they wanted to distract from the fraud. And I'm just like, as someone who is an information specialist, do you see this as an op or do you see this as a cascading series of events?
No, it's all an op. I think I tweeted something to the effect of everything that's going on in Minnesota right now is like fake and gay. It's not real. It's not real. Because think about it. So when we bring up Nick Shirley, and like, look, let's just be clear. And I met Nick Shirley very briefly at an event. We had the same event in Palm Beach a couple weeks ago. He's a good kid, right? Very smart, very much into, you know, the journalism, into the work that he's doing. But when we look at that and how that happened, there were a lot of people that had to be behind Nick Shirley pushing that story. Like, things are a little viral, but when things start going that crazy, there is obviously something going on behind the scenes, which I think is personally great because we should be operating in that way as a conservative movement, as a Republican Party, whatever you want to call it. But all of the stuff in Minnesota that is happening right now with these protests is completely fake. It is not real. It is a distraction from the fraud because at the end of the day...
Is it working to distract? Because people aren't talking about the fraud as much.
I think that it's working for right now. Long term, it won't. If Team Trump keeps their eye on the ball, I think that Pam Bondi right now is they're pushing to get these voter rolls from Minnesota.
Yeah.
And now Minnesota, they're trying not to do it, right? There's obviously something there. This is what I think.
That's like showing up to a restaurant and they refuse to allow you to see the kitchen.
Right. It's ridiculous. And one of my, I have a lot of critiques of Team Trump. I guess one of my biggest critiques right now is that I feel like sometimes they are too driven by the news cycle, which is driven by liberals. Yeah. And I feel like they spend way too much of their time sending some of these people out to cable news to do these interviews with people that hate them. And I tweeted something to the effect of the people are behind these immigration raids. The people do not want mass unchecked illegal immigration. The people want illegal immigrants out of this country. And if the people are behind you, Team Trump, why are you still letting irrelevant mainstream media set the agenda? So is what's going on the ground in Minneapolis and Minnesota an op? Absolutely. But it can only be an op, a successful op, if Team Trump and a lot of the people around play into it, which I think, unfortunately, they just are to a level to where they shouldn't be.
Well, I think the biggest example of playing into the false narrative I see right now is in Congress, and I'll explain why. Pearson, if I was in charge of the House of Representatives every single committee in the Congress would be having Minnesotans in that committee explaining how unchecked illegal immigration has made their life worse, how they appreciate ICE showing. We don't do anything to bring those folks forward. And I would also bring forward people who are not political at all, but had been denied benefits because all the money was on its way to Mogadishu, to some East African jihadist. Instead of doing that, what has the chairman of the Homeland Security announced for his upcoming hearings? He's bringing in ICE and CBP to allow every Democrat, so that they have to explain themselves, and every Democrat will do exactly what Rob described.
And he's a Republican.
It is a Republican-led committee putting ICE and CBP in the firing line for Democrats. Help me understand that.
I'm so excited when we get our Merriweather Farms shipments in. You get a beautiful piece of ribeye. Look at that marbling. Now, I take it out of the package, let it get down to room temperature. All I've got on here is a little salt, a little pepper, and then a little avocado oil. And then I've had my pan preheating with a little oil.
Head to merriweatherfarms.com and enter promo code MattG for 15% off your first order.
There is no understanding it. They're spineless, gutless Republicans who have no business doing their jobs. You mentioned that that this is an op and it's designed to help cover up the fraud, but I think there's other fraud that is worth mentioning, and I'm doing a story on this, and I want to point this out because there was a study from the Center for Immigration that found that legal and illegal immigration has shifted 17 House seats and 17 Electoral College votes following the 2020 census. So that was a net gain of 14 seats for Democrats. 10 seats shifted from Republicans, and 4 seats shifted from battleground states. All of them were Democrat gains. The Democrat net gain is greater than the respective Electoral College votes of all but 10 states.
So
this is
only
all
citizens
about,
should be counted in the census, right, Rob?
Well, I would think so. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because the other side says, but I mean, even if someone's an illegal immigrant, what the census decides is where we build the fire stations, where we have pipes and roads. And I mean, illegal immigrants still call 911. They still drive on our roads, so we have to count them. That's what they say. But you're making the argument that it's actually a math problem in the Electoral College and in the allocation of congressional seats.
Yeah, absolutely. This is exactly why they're doing it. This is why they're fighting back so hard. And if you're an illegal here, and this is what Trump has to crack down on.
After we saw New York,
allow this to continue.
I think, Rob, you and I had dinner together in New York when the Roosevelt Hotel story was big.
Oh, when that stuff was going on.
Yeah, when all these places were not available for Americans to stay in the most iconic city in America, and they were all being utilized by illegal aliens. And I really thought to myself, we were getting to a point where sanctuary cities would kind of be untenable as a political philosophy. Are we there yet? Or with the ebb and flow of what we're seeing in Minneapolis, can someone still stand up and say, I'm running to be your mayor so that I can make this a sanctuary city?
Well, didn't they just do that? Didn't Fry in Minneapolis literally just get reelected by the skin of his teeth by saying exactly that? And also by
he was the centrist.
Yeah, and also by exploiting divisions between warring Somali tribes, which is crazy that you'd have to do that in order to get elected mayor in
making
America.
Speeches in Somalian.
That should be how you get control of government in Somalia.
Yeah, in Somalia, not America. But look, at the end of the day, people elected Trump, and the people had a mandate. And one of the things that the people wanted was action on election integrity. Because at the end of the day, if we do not have action on election integrity, which includes the census stuff, which includes all of this stuff, then we literally will not have a country. There was a story, the event that we went to, and it stuck in my brain, of the Citizens Alliance, right? Mm-hmm. Citizens Alliance. It's a door knocking organization. And I went to their event. Matt was there speaking in Palm Beach, and they told a story about how they had knocked doors for the gubernatorial election in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And they had knocked doors in the election before the one that just was decided. And due to their math, they said, if we knock on 100,000 plus more doors, then their math that turns one door knock turns into, they have this math that figures out how many doors they need to lock to turn into one vote, right? To knock to turn into one vote. If we knock on 100,000 more doors, then we can win this election. They knocked on 164,000 more doors, all right, in the last election. But you know what happened? The New Jersey Democrat won by something like 700,000 votes. How does this happen? It's not mathematically possible.
Where do you think the votes are coming from?
Yeah, well, I don't know. But what I will say is this. We have socialist states in this country. New York, New Jersey, California, probably Minneapolis.
Pacific Northwest, but don't leave them out.
Yeah. So everything that we're seeing with this fraud that's happening in Minnesota, by the way, is happening in New York. It's happening in Jersey.
It's happening
in California. It's happening even in Ohio, right? We have seen this all across the country. So at the end of the day, if Team Trump, if they do not do the SAVE Act, if they don't do election integrity, if they do not figure this out, and I'm talking before the midterms, then this whole thing that everybody's saying right now that we're just going to lose, we're going to lose, I don't think that that's necessarily correct. I think it's a lot of people who don't do anything but go on cable news sets and repeat what everybody else is saying. I don't know that that has to be a prophecy that we fulfill. But what I do know is that if they don't do something about election integrity before this election, then we absolutely will lose, and we will continue to lose because they will continue to steal elections.
Well, I mean, Trump just sent the FBI down to Fulton.
Yeah.
They just got warrants for all of the ballots down there for the 2020 election.
What do you think?
That's a good start.
Yeah. Where do you think that story's going, Pearson?
I mean, I think we're going to find a lot of fraud. Trump promised it in Davos. Back to Minnesota, though, I wanted to say, so far, Trump has deported enough people from Minnesota for Minnesota to lose a congressional seat already just in the past month.
That's crazy.
So
And so
that's
how
where
do
this
we,
is going.
I guess my question to you guys both, I mean, maybe this is a little, about the process or whatever. How do we make sure that this is recounted in time? How do we make sure that we redo the census? Like, how do they fight for this stuff? Because at the end of the day, we don't have that much longer to go.
At the end of the day, we're going to have to get Republicans to vote on it.
Well, look, you can't even do that in Indiana, bro.
Yeah.
Like in Indiana, where we have super Republican majorities in the House and Senate, they wouldn't draw the districts and do a simple fix. And what you're describing about the illegal aliens being counted, Senator Jim Banks, who's terrific, he did a whole report on this and explained how Indiana was cheating the system, and they could not convince Republicans in Indiana
because they're not Republicans
to go.
But look at what, to your point earlier about the Democrats being organized. Look at what they did in Virginia. They've been in like a week. Oof. Look what they've done.
They have like 74 gun control bills that are going to get signed.
It's crazy. It's insane. And that's how the Democrats work. That's what Republicans need to be doing.
It's a legislative blitzkrieg.
But
in
why
Virginia.
is it that Republicans are so afraid to just be Republicans? Because Democrats are damn sure not afraid to enact their agenda.
Well, it's what you said about the media, right? There are Republicans who believe that the liberal television producer or the liberal editor of their local newspaper who like went to Colgate or Tufts, or Columbia, that like actually if the Republican just kind of talks in more of a Rotary Club, country club style, that person's affection and admiration is gettable.
Yeah.
And the reality is, for some it is. Like you look at a guy like Don Bacon who's leaving Congress now. He won repeatedly in Omaha. It's going to be tough to hold that seat, in any circumstance. But he always was beloved by the liberal media for criticizing Trump and holding up those philosophies. So I guess it is attainable, but like to what end? To sit there and watch your cities burn?
You know what the issue is, and I've been feeling this a lot. Have you ever heard of a concept called the gerontocracy?
Yes.
The gerontocracy is basically the idea that we are governed by the elderly. We are governed by senior citizens. And that is the biggest issue. It's one of the critiques that I have. And again, it seems like I'm going hard on Team Trump. I'm not. Like, I love Trump. I love everybody in the White House, all of that stuff. But one of the biggest criticisms is that there's just too many boomers around who think that it's still 1998 and they're being led by the mainstream
Trump's administration is way younger. You have a young attorney general. You have a young vice president. You have a young press secretary.
It is way younger. And my theory, and you probably know a little bit more about this, but my theory is that the younger people that are around are being blocked by the older people. I feel because I feel like, JD Vance has a lot of young energy. JD Vance is a millennial. He knows what time it is in terms of what is happening in the world right now. And I feel like we do have these young people around, but I feel the same way I felt like when I used to do a lot of cable news, where it was, okay, we want you around because we're young, because you're young and you appear young and you're going to make us appear more youthful, but then we don't really want to listen to anything that you have to say, and you're just window dressing while all of the boomers run the show. And so,
youth washing.
What's that?
Youth
washing, right? So I feel that a lot right now. I feel like we are just being governed by senior citizens.
When I was in Congress, I haven't checked since I left, but we had more people over the age of 70 in Congress than at any time in America's history. And some of them had really important roles and had health issues. And I don't want to make light of anyone's health issues. I hope people are healthy. But if you aren't, and you probably shouldn't be on the board of directors of the most powerful country on the planet Earth. Well, I mean, we had a House Appropriations Committee chair that was off at an inpatient treatment facility, and I couldn't understand why we were doing that.
Yeah, Dianne Feinstein, who basically died in Senate,
it was
right?
It was sad.
And so if we don't, one of the biggest, I am lucky enough to have a lot of friends that are not in politics, but they always, whenever they're frustrated about stuff, they're like, well, Rob, what do you think about this? Rob, what do you think about this? And I was literally texting with one friend in particular, like my age, decently successful, could be more successful, is still trying to, do different things in his own life in terms of home ownership and all that stuff. And he's like, bro, these people do not understand the world that millennials live in. If they don't even understand the world that millennials live in, they certainly are not going to understand the Gen Z.
Is it understanding or caring?
So wait,
I don't think they care.
Is Kamala Harris a boomer or a non-boomer?
Kamala Harris, isn't she Gen X?
No, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. In terms of, Kamala Harris is just such...
Boomer or non-boomer?
She has boomer energy.
Totally boomer energy.
She has boomer energy.
All right, now do Gavin Newsom.
Gavin Newsom?
Boomer, because it's harder. That's harder.
Well, but here's the thing. I define boomer energy as, do these people have an actual idea, or are they just going to listen to what their old-ass donors tell them to say?
Well,
and by that concept, that's
actually a really good test.
Yeah.
That's a really good test.
And by that notion, Gavin Newsom has total boomer
100%.
energy.
I do want to talk with you a little bit about this MAHA agenda because you've been a leader in it. You really were one of the first people saying that Republicans had a growth path to people who cared about health, and we just had to start talking about it. We have a lot of people who care about it, and it's not all eating KFC with President Trump, but I love doing that.
Yes, that's a good thing.
How do you think that's going? Because as I watch Secretary Kennedy, I see a guy who is laying waste to some of the worst features of HHS. I see changes in the vaccine schedules. We have a new food pyramid now. He's getting a lot of these corporate entities to stop doing the harmful dyes. I feel like the wind's at our back on that. What's your perspective?
I think in some ways, and I get in trouble for saying this, but I think the MAHA movement is a stronger movement than the MAGA movement. Because
that's a very hot take.
I think that it's a stronger movement than the MAGA movement.
Just doesn't want to deport enough people.
Yeah, they don't want to deport enough people. Well, number one, because they're mostly libs, but that's a whole other topic. But here's the thing. But no, this is the thing. And let me just really get into this. Because I got into, I've always been in a MAHA, I'm a health fitness guy, food pyramid, the whole thing, eat more steak, love it. I got into kind of what they're actually doing as a movement about a year ago. I got invited to one of their galas in Palm Beach, right? So I went there just to kind of check out the vibe, met the lovely host, I forget, Susan Malzoni, I believe her name is. She's lovely. She hosted the gala for MAHA. But anyway, so that night was the first time that I was actually around a lot of these MAHA people. And I was really kind of getting the sense of, okay, who are these people? Because they're not MAGA people. All right. They can work with MAGA people, but they're not MAGA people. They're MAHA people. Their goals and their agendas are completely specific to the MAHA
They would
agenda.
probably vote for socialism if it came with no seed oils.
Probably, and no Red 4. No Red 40, right?
Right.
But the reason that I think it's such a strong movement, the reason I think it's doing a good job is because they're focused on very specific things that their people care about. I think that the vaccine stuff is very inside baseball, and a lot of normies don't understand that to the level that some of their real experts do. But I'll tell you what normies understand. Normies understand eat real food.
Yes.
Normies understand our food is killing us. Normies understand that in the United States of America, it is a Herculean feat to just not be fat. Right?
Yeah.
It is a Herculean feat to just not be fat because there's so much crap in our foods that is killing us. And MAHA is strong because they have been able to focus on that and get the right people to put that message out. And again, that's not a message that's going to be put out by the same person that doesn't think that Trump is deporting enough illegals. Although sometimes those things can coalesce. But what I've been telling a lot of the MAHA people, what I've been telling a lot of the people in HHS that I've been meeting with in DC as they kind of try to figure this out, is that realize how broad this coalition is, and realize that there are people that are into health, fitness, beauty, and all of that stuff who do not talk about politics, who are not super interested in it, but they are MAHA people. And
they vote.
And they vote. And they will vote for a candidate that embraces the MAHA agenda. I think, and I'll wrap this up, I think that MAHA has more political power than any other movement in this entire coalition.
You know who believes that also? Steve Hilton. He's running for governor of California.
Yeah.
And he tells me all the time that this is a huge part of his campaign strategy is to engage this movement, to speak to them, and to do something for them. And governors can do a lot for them. What were you eating earlier? I came in your office and you had like some sort of seed over some sort of goop. What the hell was that?
Homemade Greek yogurt that my wife makes.
Nice.
With some blueberries and some scoops of crushed flax oil or crushed flaxseed.
What does that do for you?
Crushed flaxseed?
Yeah, well, it's the whole. Give me the pitch on.
Well, it's very anti-inflammatory. I'm a big proponent of anti-inflammatory diets. I think that's super important, especially of all of the toxins.
What's inflammatory?
What's inflammatory?
Yeah.
It's things that provoke an immune response.
Yeah, but like what did I eat is inflammatory? Like Taco
I don't know.
Bell?
I don't know what you. Yeah, Taco Bell would be definitely. Unfortunately, it's all very processed.
Taco Bell is so good. I'll never.
It is really good. I totally agree.
It is just a specific taste that has nothing to do with Mexican food, but it's just
not at all.
Entirely of its own that I enjoy.
It reminds me of when I used to like skip high school classes.
No, it is.
And, like,
It's totally
slip
high
out
school.
To the,
It's 100%
to the Taco
swim team.
Bell
Swim team
Because
for
with
me.
59 cents, you could get a taco in like 2000.
There's a Taco Bell within walking distance of my condo in Miami Beach, and it has been a problem. Like, it has been a problem, especially when I come off a flight.
So again, our viewers will be shocked by this because they see you as this hard-charging investigative reporter, but you are like a dedicated MAHA guy. You're like a very you do pull-ups every day. You got that bar there, which sorry that I hung my dry cleaning on it. I had no idea it was for pull-ups.
Yeah, it's important. One is just, I'm in the office all day. You got to do something. And I got kids at home, so working out is tough. But that's one of the biggest things is health, and I'm thrilled to see this rocketing up as far as the importance level for most people. This was really not in my awareness until 2020, until COVID happened, and my trust in the medical establishment and everything just completely collapsed. Everything fell apart, and after that, it was, well, if that's not true, what else is not true? And it takes you down a rabbit hole, and nothing has been true that we've been
like,
taught.
oh my gosh, COVID got me to believe that all the vax truthers were right about everything.
Yeah, all the conspiracies are true.
Like, that's actually a great question. Would we have the MAHA movement but for the way COVID opened people's eyes?
Yeah, I don't think we would, because some of the most prominent and respected people in the MAHA movement are people that got into it because of COVID. There's a guy, Sayer G, who's incredible. And he has an encyclopedic knowledge of all of this vaccine stuff, like all of the COVID stuff. And that got a lot of people into it. When you talk about the MAHA moms, there were a lot of moms and a lot of mothers that just did not want to give their child the COVID shot. And I know that there's new reporting that came out about that in terms of how it was affecting kids that they had to take. All of this stuff is out. Obviously, it's not reported either in the mainstream media or really even in conservative media for that matter. But all of that stuff is out there. So I think that, we can thank, the demons that push for lockdowns and for people to put, a foreign substance into their body for the growth of MAHA.
Yeah. So it was crazy. It's crazy when you guys frame it that way, because it's like the group of people that were telling us to get a shot and 2 boosters and wear 4 masks, and
it was so inconsistent.
Those people drove away folks who actually did care about health.
Yes.
And we're like, oh, no. You don't need to do that. You need to go to the gym. You need to go outside. You need to be on your paddleboard. You need to do things
and they told us not to do any of the stuff that makes sense to be healthy.
And you know what? I think that I need to make a statement. I think I need to come out. I think I need to take this moment to come out as a pureblood, proudly unvaxxed.
Oh,
and I never said it publicly during that era. Here's my thing with the COVID shot and all that stuff. Luckily, at the time, I was employed by Turning Point USA, who never put any pressure on any of us to take that jab, right? My personal thought of it the entire time, I've been a fit guy, a fit bro, as long as you've known me, right? And so at the very beginning, I was just doing the research, and I was like, I'm a pretty fit guy. I'm pretty young. I work out. I don't think I really need the shot.
Yeah.
I think I'm just not going to take it. And then all of a sudden, there was just this push and this agenda,
massive push,
and they wanted to force you to take it. And if you didn't want to take it, then you were like trying to kill grandma at brunch.
Yeah. By the way, even within families, there was like a weird thing, like who in the family was not getting vaccinated, and then would everybody kind of gang up on them?
And then when I saw that, I said, "Well, I'm absolutely not taking it now."
Yes, now I'm a contrarian.
Yeah, now I'm just gonna.
You want me to do it? Well, I'm not going to do it.
Exactly.
So I'm pure blood, and I'm proud that both of my daughters are complete pure bloods, and they've never had any vaccine for anything.
You're probably going to have to move to Florida at some point.
Probably going to have to at this point, yeah.
I only have a few minutes left, but Rob, you are the DC influencer whisperer. And we have talked about these issues, from MAHA to the immigration stuff to people's anxieties about the economy. If this were a discussion you were having with one of the think tanks we like, a Heritage Foundation, a Conservative Partnership Institute, and admittedly there are a lot of boomers in those groups. What is like the elevator pitch as to how engaging an influencer force can bring online energy enthusiasm into real world deliverables?
Well, this is what I tell people, when I'm doing the meetings in DC. First of all, engage with the right influencers. Okay? Numbers don't necessarily mean influence. So you're going to want to engage with the influencers that know how to use social media in a variety of different ways and on a variety of different platforms, but also have something substantial and interesting to say. Generally, people that, everybody does the news of the day stuff, but you want to have somebody that really has probably like 3 to 5 things that they really care about. If I define myself in that way when I'm talking to prospective clients or when I'm just consulting, I say, everybody knows, like, I'm a MAHA fit bro. I'm all about national security. I'm pro-military. Those are the things, right? So that is what they should look for to engage with people. Don't just go for the people that have the millions of followers and they're all this, because a lot, like Matt.
I'm right here, Rob.
Yeah, you're right. But look, some of these people have just, gone a little cuckoo. And we are just seeing this all happen right now. And I think it's because they just are, in kind of like these podcast bunkers. So I tell people not to engage with the podcast bunker people, but to engage with people that have an audience that trusts them and an audience that follows them.
No bunker. It is the set at One America News.
Yes.
And if it is a bunker, I'm glad I've got Pearson Sharp as my bunker mate.
Yes.
Pearson, what are you watching in the coming week?
What am I watching?
Yeah, what are you watching for, or what are you
news-wise?
Yeah.
I've got a couple of stories lined up on Minnesota. That's like the biggest thing on my radar right now. One with the polling and the fraud and the numbers for the elections and the people being deported. That, and then I want to do a piece on how all of these Democrats, and I've got a list of these people who have fomented the violence against the ICE agents, and they're causing this. Our elected officials are causing these issues. And I think that's something that needs to be pointed out.
I will look forward to it on the Sharp Report. And as always, you can join me every weeknight on the Matt Gaetz Show, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 Pacific. And as always, you've heard me talk about our terrific sponsor, All Family Pharmacy, and I'm going to keep talking about them because they're doing things the right way. It's fast, it's reliable, and these folks actually care about getting people the medications they need without a bureaucratic runaround. So if you don't want to wait in line for your meds to be delivered, if you want to make sure that you're connected with a doctor who will actually assess your needs, you need to talk to my friends at All Family Pharmacy. allfamilypharmacy.com/Matt. And if you've got one of those doctors who won't prescribe ivermectin, well, my friends at All Family Pharmacy will connect you to the right folks. They've got everything: antibiotics, antivirals, Tamiflu, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, blood pressure meds, and more. Just order online. Once approved, your meds show up for you. It's the best thing you can imagine. So if you're tired of a broken healthcare system, you need to choose the right pharmacy. It'll make you feel better. allfamilypharmacy.com/Matt. Code MATT10 to save 10% off your order. See you next week.
Want to see more great videos like this? Click on the link below to subscribe to OAN Live and watch Dan Ball's Real America and The Matt Gaetz Show on Dish Channel 212. Tune in, subscribe, and watch today.